Chapter 3 From the Shadows. He's supposed to be asleep. Conan's bedtime is 9 p.m. and Ran is impervious to wheedling. Fortunately, she also stops checking on him after the first half hour, and the old man doesn't turn in until after midnight, unless Conan, has just finished a case and has enough cash on hand to drink himself to sleep earlier. Consequently, Conan's lying under the cover reading with a flashlight. And how sad is it that this is just everyday life instead of a camping trip when the doorbell rings. It's not unheard of for clients to turn up at 11:30, although it rarely turns out well. Ran, although possibly still awake, is doubtless in her bedclothes and unwilling to answer the door. The bell rings another 2 times before Conan hears the TV set on mute, then lumbering steps. There's a conversation, loud protestations from the old man, murmurs from the other, and then the door closes, and 2 sets of footsteps return. He's got the flashlight switched off as soon as he realizes whoever it is has come in, ready to sneak over the door. But there's no need, because it opens silently before he can even lie down again. "Oi, Kudo," hisses this familiar voice. In the background, the TV turns back on. "Don't take all night," bawls the private eye at the volume that's just begging around to come out and tear into him. "Hattori?" asks Conan, shocked, throwing off his blanket. He has no night vision thanks to the flashlight, and in the dim light seeping in from the main room, all he can see is the Osakin boy's silhouette leaning against the doorframe. "Something's up, Kudo. Something big. We need to talk. Oji-san may be a lousy parental figure, but he's not gonna let me walk out of here at midnight. And I can't sneak out either. He'll notice me if I'm not in my bed when he comes in. And how much does he hate having to share a room with Ran's dad? It's not so much the snoring as a constant burgeoning inconvenience, affecting him in a dozen different minor ways that all rub at him like pebbles in his shoe." "You're telling me you can't sneak past a 45-year-old man? Just wait till he's sleeping and meet me downstairs. If he asks, I'm here giving Conan a message for Kudo." There's no room for compromise in the tone. "It won't be until after 12:30. Yoko's rerun is on at midnight. I'll wait." He dresses warm because this body is prone to catching cold even in mild weather, and as much as he hates it, not getting ridiculous amounts of sleep makes him even more likely to catch one. Hattori is waiting for him on the bottom step of the stairs, wearing one of his many thin jackets and a pair of slacks. Conan's sharp eye immediately catalogues the fact that his hat is missing, and that there is no bike in sight, although he'd hardly have ridden it to Beika, if it were in fact Hattori Heiji. They walk down the empty street in silence, elementary school student and high school student taking a midnight stroll. He twitched the sleeve of his coat up over his watch before he stepped out of the door, and now he keeps his wrist close to the other hand. They round a corner and keep walking. Conan's pretty sure they're heading to the local park. It's in sight now, empty and abandoned in the darkness, hardly lit by the surrounding streetlights. The swing set casts long, twisted shadows. The faces of the spring horses take on sinister grins and leers in the uneven lighting, like something out of a movie where the unsuspecting elementary school kid gets murdered gruesomely. "Your accent's pretty good," he says finally as they turn into the park, heading for the covered platform provided for the protection from the sun and rain, and for those who don't like sitting on the spring horses. "Of course," says Hattori matter-of-factly. "Was it the hat?" "That and the fact that I talked to Hattori before I went to bed. Mistakes like that aren't like you, kaitou kid." "I was a bit pressed," says Hattori's face with a different voice and a Tokyo accent. Conan represses a shiver as he sits on the bench, Kid slouching next to him. "I take it you haven't come here in the middle of the night to beg me to arrest you. You've got your own cop to bug for that." Kid reaches into a pocket of his jacket and Conan tenses. Makes no effort to hide the fact that he's got the watch aimed at the thief. The only reason he hasn't pressed the trigger yet is because the kid's never threatened him, and it would have been easy to do so. He's even saved his bacon a couple of times. He's willing to hear the thief out for that, although not willing to give him any leeway. But all the other boy does is pull out a tape recorder. "Do you recognize this voice?" he asks in a tone which gives away absolutely nothing, and depresses a button. It's a copy of a copy. Conan can hear the button being pressed on the other end, and the fuzzy effect of too many covers, and even someone breathing nearby. But those thoughts plummet right out of his mind when the voice begins to speak. A man with a request. For each day you go over deadline. You don't say. We'll be in contact, Inspector. Better step up your performance. There's a click from the tape recorder, and then another as Kid stops it. Conan can feel the thief's eyes on him, watching him with a fox cunning. Play it again, he orders, stalling. The thief pauses just long enough to silently register his skepticism, and then rewinds and starts the tape over again. The 10 seconds the edited clip takes to play is not enough time for him to even gather his thoughts, never mind think. Not nearly enough, because Kaitou Kid has come to him with what is clearly a ransom demand, made by Jin. He can't screw this up, can't mess up this chance, but that's not what's occupying the majority of his thoughts. What's occupying the majority of his thoughts is shit. The tape finishes for the second time, and Kid turns his hand over. The player is gone when he turns it back again. He waits for an answer, and when none comes, leans back on the bench, head tilted back to stare up at the dark ceiling. It's a calm night, and the park is silent around them. No rustle of trees or squeaking swings, just the far-off rumble of traffic, too distant to register consciously. That bad, huh? Says Kid eventually, without looking down at him. What did they take? Please not people. Please not people. For the love of gods, let it not be lives at stake. Children. Fuck, it is. So fucking bad. Apart from the fact that everyone the Black organization touches dies, he needs to play his operation with microscopic precision if he's gonna hang on to his own life, and hostage situations do not allow for that kind of care. This will force his hand, and in the end, most likely. So, who are they? Kid is remaining carefully neutral, gazing out at the haze of golden gray clouds that make up Baca's night sky on anything other than the clearest nights. He might, from his tone, have been talking about politics or coffee, or anything else that he didn't give a damn about. The fact that they're sitting here means he cares a dangerous amount. The less you know about them, the safer you'll be. It may have escaped you, Kid. Playing things safe is not exactly a founding principle of my profession. He ignores the Kid, ignores most of the thief's poise. They're killers. I don't mean mercenaries or assassins. I mean, they kill people who get in their way, and knowing they exist counts as getting in their way. He keeps the anger out of his voice, but even after all this time, he can't sift out bitterness. Who do you know who got in their way? Kid turns to look at him, eyes flashing in the dim lights. It's not curiosity, not ghoulishness. It's fear. Me, Conan, Shinichi says flatly. There's a pause, and then, being a brat again must suck, but it's not exactly death. He's never figured out exactly how the Kid knows who he is. And suppose it's not really that big of a mystery. One boy disappears, another one shows up with the same interests and the same intellect. Anyone with any kind of detachment, anyone whose last name isn't Mori, could probably see it miles away. Anyone like Jin. It would have been if their drug had done what it was supposed to. A dark certainty, and then more silence. They've kidnapped 5 children and a woman, a pregnant woman. If they don't get what they want by midnight, 23.5 hours from now, they'll start killing them, one a day. What guarantee do you have that they haven't killed them already? He hates himself for being able to ask it with relative calm, only gagging just slightly at the words, a taste of bile in the back of his throat. None, answers the thief. They were alive when the ransom demand was made yesterday. Now, who knows? He shrugs, a rustle of thick cloth, eyes staring over Conan's shoulder, more somber than the detective could ever imagine Hattori looking. And the ransom? Me.